Meeting for January 16th, 2023. No reportable action on our closed session this evening. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Just want to remind everybody to silence their cell phones, including us. I think I can. And just it's noticeable that we are missing a couple of our council members tonight. Councilman Davis is absent, and also Councilman Baker. So we have the three of us tonight. All right. At this time, we will have the special presentations and our announcement. This time slot is for informational presentations, appointments, or awards presented by the city council or to the city council. Yreka, this is the Yreka Volunteer Fire Department, continued part 3 with Fire Chief Jerry Lemus. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for the intro. As you stated, Jerry Lemus, Fire Chief for City of Yreka. And you also stated as correctly that this is part 3 of our series on availability of responders from Yreka Fire Department to medical aids and other emergency calls within the city. So not to bore you terribly because you've seen it before, but first slide, Reddit, please. Oh, there we go. So you know the mantra that I've been stating is over time we've seen the increase in calls. The blue would be the medical calls, and the calls above that would be the fire calls, et cetera. So 2023, we ended up with right in there at 1,915 calls. 71% were medical. And as in 2023, you also see, 21 volunteers plus myself. So, we're still dealing with a lower number than what we've been used to. And out of those, on another slide, you'll see where, the majority of the bulk of the responses were from just a few responders. Next slide. Again, this just expresses the workload as number of alarms per volunteer. So over time, the number of volunteers has decreased and the number of calls has risen dramatically, thus creating a huge workload for a smaller number of available volunteers. And I think that's something to keep in mind, is available. Just because they're volunteer by nature, they go when the alarm sounds, but they could be at their job, they could be anywhere. They aren't assigned to the station per se. Next slide. So where I'm going with this whole idea, this presentation that we've been working on, is where we've ended up is we can't volunteer, quote unquote, volunteer our way out of what we're facing, because inevitably the calls have risen and they continue to rise. So more volunteers will not necessarily fix it, because you still have, a tremendous amount of responses that need to be attended to. And as you see here in the yellow highlighted there at the bottom, there were 75 alarms annually per volunteer, or an alarm about every 4 days. So that's 75. Let's see, 75 into 2025 gives you roughly that many. So in 1990, that was much less, 2 alarms annually per volunteer, based on the idea that each volunteer would respond. So with 2025 alarms last in 22, what would it look like if they had 60 volunteers? Well, that's what we were just looking at. So you can see, with more volunteers, probably over 40 in 1990, they only had to respond to 2. In 2022, smaller number of volunteers. So out of those that are on the department, only a few are available. So therefore you put more stress on those individuals, or they have to pick up the balance of what's left. When you lose the volunteers, somebody has to respond. Okay, next slide. So the slide that up there, it's kind of getting in the way there, but yeah, just for a second, and you can change it. So for YFD to be safe and efficient on every call, we need 2 responders per call. And that's, we try to do better than that, of course, on fire. We don't expect 2. If we were that good, I wouldn't be here. But nonetheless, assuming that, one person per call, is one standard. On medical aids, we try to, get a minimum of 2, but we don't even manage that some days when everyone's busy with their personal lives and their, full-time paying jobs. So as you see here, with 41 volunteers, 98 alarms annually per volunteer based on the 2025 calls that we had in 2022. And then you bump it up to, like, right now we're at 22, roughly 23, with 60 volunteers. They only had to respond to 68 alarms annually per volunteer. But if you have 27, which is what we had in 22, that was 150 alarms per volunteer. So you see, it fits that statement that you can't necessarily volunteer your way out of it, because the call volume is just increasing so dramatically. And then in the very bottom, the reality is in 2023, 22 first responders to share the response load equitably would mean each volunteer would need to respond to 184 alarms. So those of you in the audience can relate, think is the busiest day you've had this year. On top of that, maybe you had to respond 3 or 4 times to, maybe help your neighbor that was in need or something along those lines. And it makes it rather untenable. Next slide, Retta. Thank you. And this slide basically portrays number of responses by volunteers 2022. And as it states, the reality is much different. So this is where I was stating that for availability, the fewer people you have, those minuscule amount of folks end up doing pulling the heavy wagon. So you have 3.2 alarms per day. That individual you see there, out of 2,025 calls, ran 1,118 calls. The next individual was 952, and below that 944, and below that 659. I'm not in there. That's not me. That's people that have full-time jobs, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2. But those taller bar graphs there represent 4 or 5 individuals that ran all of those calls, and those are primarily medical. But I just wanted to point that out, that's where the burnout comes in over time. So I want you to keep that in your memory bank. Next slide, please. And as I stated earlier, AB 1127 became codified in 2000, puts more liability on the city and, of course, myself as the chief, to make sure that everybody's operating safely. SB 1207, where volunteer firefighters were thought to be employees. They postponed enforcement until 2004, but it created a huge burden for training, equipment, and things of that nature. Next slide. So retraining, like we said, was tremendous. Near 500 hours, 550 hours of training are needed to safely and effectively respond in this ever-changing world. And I won't go into all those in detail, but Mr. McCoy, you'd be glad to know that we did have some electric vehicle training on Saturday.
Great.
Provided by COS Fire Technology, and we will have more of that. And it's changing so fast. The instructor said and that's what his job is training. He can't keep up with it just with electric vehicles.
Thank you.
But it was very enlightening. So
You'll be one of about 200 fire departments in the US that have it.
Yeah. So anyway, training, safety is a huge part of what we have to do. And we do a pretty darn good job of it, I would say, but we have, miles to go. So next slide. So we can't turn the hands of time backwards. And this relates to evolving risks, hazards, et cetera, and demographics, of course. So as I just stated about electric vehicles, they're far more complicated with multiple airbags. That's true. Just since I've been in, that's changed. Electric vehicles and hybrids. They're talking now about charging stations and vehicles with 800 volts. So stand by for that one. That's going to be interesting. Where now I think the 400 volts is the quick charge, some of the quick charging stations that we have for Teslas. And Yreka population, as you see there, 1960. This was gathered by Mr. J. Perkins, looking at census data, was 4,759. For those of you that were around here then, I was not born yet, so that's a good thing. 128 residents per first responder, which this is an interesting demographic, I must say. I hadn't thought of this, but to put it in those terms is really eye-opening. In 1990, I wasn't quite on the department yet, but 6,948 residents and 169 residents per first responder. So it's just a strict division of number of residents by the responders that we had. And now that number has risen to 289. So you see the dichotomy there, how it's going. So next slide, please. Okay. I'm gonna have to get a little closer over here by Jason. Well, I got my chart here. Never mind. So I want to give you a quick down and dirty on 911 fire and medical call process. A lot of you probably wonder what happens when the call goes into dispatch. So when you call 911, if you're in the city, generally on a landline, but even cell phones, they will go to, and Chief Gilman, correct me if I misspeak at all. They go to YPD, say, what is your emergency? They say, I need help. I'm not feeling good. Fallen, can't get up, whatever it is. And then that call gets transferred to the YICC, which is the Yreka Interagency Communication Center, or CAL FIRE dispatch. From there, they do some trained personnel and dispatch do questions of the patient or whoever's calling, and they get the information and they determine what the response is going to require, whether it's ambulance only. Sometimes people say, I just need an ambulance to be evaluated. I know what's going on. I just need to have whatever they know, intimately familiar with their own medical condition. And then next to that, well, we'll just follow that arrow through. So then the ambulance requested, we are requested, meaning Yreka Fire is requested to go along with them. And all we do is generally we get there before the ambulance and do the assessment and then relay that information to the paramedic when they arrive at scene. We do, whatever care is necessary to care for the patient until the ambulance gets there at scene. So in the case where ambulance is not requested, in the case of just a fall patient, a non-injury fall patient, Yreka Fire responds, and the ambulance at that point is not requested because the person says, I'm not hurt. I just need to lift back up. I can't get up, and there's nobody else here to help me, or that person can't lift them. So we respond, and then we can handle, and then we go home. We go back to the station. It's just, we're there a few minutes, and then we go back to the station. There are times when we do a medical upgrade because the person starts complaining of pain in their back or neck or whatever. The EMTs or firefighters notice that there's something else going on. We will call for, the ambulance to respond. And then many times they will do that and then take the person to the hospital. So that's the kind of the two scenarios there. Rarely does it happen, but occasionally the ambulance will be requested for Siskiyou Springs Senior Living, something like that, and fire does not have to go. However, we are notified because sometimes they upgrade and say, hey, we need help lifting this patient. We're going to need more manpower, whatever. So that's kind of takes care of that medical side of it. In the case of fire, at the top right there, the arrow that goes to the right, We have automatic aid agreements with South Yreka, Montague, and CAL FIRE. And so immediately upon dispatch of a structure fire, whether that be residential or commercial, automatically get assistance from those three agencies. And that has been a godsend, I have to say. It's been the best thing that I think the 3 or 4 chiefs have come up with for those respective agencies. It's worked out really well. So be thankful that we get along with each other and there's no turf battles, because that happens a lot. Not here in North County, that's for sure. So on that particular fire there, or that situation, whatever that is, YFD can handle it, and it depends on, proximity to the station and a number of other things. If we get there first, then we'll start canceling those other resources and handle it ourselves, and then we return to station. And then in the case of where it says no, then we would have a mutual aid situation where we'd be requested, or we would request those other agencies if it didn't come out on initial dispatch, which that rarely happens. And then, but we get called out frequently to other parts of the county for some of the bigger fires. We've been to Weed a few times, the McKinney fire on, the initial attack, that sort of thing. So at the termination of the call, when it's been mitigated, then we return to station. So that just gives you a real down and dirty, broad perspective on kind of what happens. And if you have a scanner, you hear radio traffic, then you're probably familiar with how that happens, and all the terminology probably. But that's basically a synopsis, if you will, of how that process works. And there's little nuances here and there that I won't go into that, don't really make a huge difference. It's more just specific to the response and or what's going on at the time. So you can imagine if there's a lot going on, they have fires in the summertime, resources are slim, and you may not get some of that help. So you have to improvise and figure out other ways to handle it. So anyway, we'll move on. Next slide. So where is YFD responding? I'm sure that's a question a lot of people in this room has pondered. You hear the sirens, you see them drive by, you wonder, where are they going? So if you fast forward to the next slide there, Retta, we'll kind of show them the map. But do we have that one to put up on the wall? No. Okay. So the pixelation on this makes it a little difficult, but you can kind of see where the calls are, the ones that are in, kind of shows up light blue in the on the map, but the pie chart tells a story there. Like I said, 72% roughly. Fire, 10%. Public assist, kind of a magenta color there, purplish. And which they're almost as many as fire, if you notice that. And that's true, because we get a lot of those, a lot of public assist, mostly lift assist. And then other power lines down, other hazard, well, that would probably be in the hazard category. But we get called for just about everything you can think of. So that gives you an idea. It's pretty well distributed, to be honest. I thought it would be more concentrated in some areas, but I know that's a question on people's minds. No, the homeless encampment does not account for a huge percentage of our medicals. It really doesn't, like people might think. I know, because I look at every report that comes across, ones that we go on. It's a fair amount for the population, but it's pretty much commensurate with the population, what you might expect. So having said that, I will wrap it up and just let you guys kind of ponder that for a minute. And next, well, you can leave that up there, Retta. What I would say, what the next one is going to say is, obviously the city council is welcome to come visit at the station at any time. And if you haven't seen it, come by and I'll give you a 10-cent tour and kind of show you what we have going on. And we did receive our new apparatus, but I couldn't bring it tonight because it's dark and it's cold. So we'll wait till we get better weather. Our Type 6 came in, so we've been working on that. All right. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. All right, come on back.
And it goes right into what we're talking about. So as I was describing the volunteers and what they do. We had an amazing situation a couple weeks ago. Had a call for cardiac arrest. Our folks were there within a couple of minutes, I understand, and administered the automatic defibrillator and performed CPR, and that lady is alive today.
Wow.
So you will probably hear more about it because just for the circumstances, but yeah, we're getting good news, and hopefully this is something to relate to what we're trying to accomplish, which is having people at the station. And in this case, there was one quickly joined by another that lives close by. They responded and were able to literally save that person's life, along with others, of course. But it just goes to show you what you can do when you have a quick response, and that's what's needed. 10 minutes, goes by faster than you think. When they got there within 2, started to get everything together, probably within 3 minutes. I don't know exactly the time frame when they administered, they gave 2 shocks and did CPR as they were instructed. But it's nice to report the ones that go well. So I wanted you to be aware of that, and as well keep that tucked away for future reference, because it's what we're here for. Protect life, environment and property. Life and property. Environment's kind of right in there, but life is most important, as we all know. So I'll leave you with that.
Well, great. Well, thank you for coming back and sharing that. That's fantastic news. All right. All right. So we'll move on to item number 6. This is public comments. Public participation is welcomed and invited at all city council meetings. This time is set aside for residents to address the city council on matters listed on the consent agenda, as well as other items not included on the regular agenda. If your comments concern an item noted on the regular agenda, please address the city council when that item is open for public comment. The city requests that persons addressing the city council refrain from making personal, slanderous, profane, or disruptive remarks. Council members, when recognized by the mayor, may ask clarifying questions of the presenter, but no action may be taken by the city council during public comment section of the meeting. Under the Brown Act, the city council is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the posted agenda. This time is set aside for residents to address the city council on matters listed on the consent agenda, as well as other items not included on the agenda. If your comments concern an item listed under the public hearing or new business section of the agenda, please address the council when that item is open for public comment. Please speak into the microphone from the podium. The podium electronically adjusts up and down to accommodate the speaker. Please state your name for the record prior to providing your comments. Please address the council as a whole. If you have documents to present, please provide a minimum of 7 copies. These become public record. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Since council is unable to take action on issues not on the agenda, your matter may be referred to staff for follow-up or placed on a future agenda. The public comment period is not intended to be a question and answer period or conversations with the council or city staff. So at this time, if you have a public comment, please come up to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Louise Gliotto, and I'm here tonight to give a shout out to our fire department. That woman that was saved was one of my best friends. And had they not gotten there in time, she wouldn't have made it. We had started CPR on her, and we're all seniors. And we were so glad to see them, and they saved her. She is in Sacramento now, recovering, and she is a Kaiser patient, so she's being there to be examined. There was no physical reason for her to have a cardiac arrest, none at all. Her coronary arteries were open, everything. She has no deficit with her neurological, so she didn't have a lack of oxygen. She had no damage to her heart. And I have to say, I don't know who the volunteer was, Chief, but whoever he was, he did an outstanding job of intubating her, which means he got the tube down into her throat, into her trachea, so that he could get oxygen into her. And that's not an easy thing to do, especially on your first try. So I just wanted the chief to know and the fire department know how appreciative we are. And it's amazing to me that these people have jobs and they'll respond to something like this and then have to go back to their job and work, because it's really hard when you've done something like that, because it really shakes you up and it stays with you for a long time. So again, thank you so much. And please let that volunteer know how appreciative we are of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise.
Thank you, Louise, and please give our best wishes to your friend for a speedy recovery. And thank you to our fire department and YPD and staff that responded to that call that day. All right. Hello.
Hello, my name is Tara Hill Collins, and I come to you guys tonight as a private citizen. And I'm going to go off script for 1 second and say it would be ridiculous if we had a police department that wasn't paid. I would love for my tax money to pay for every firefighter that we have. But that's not why I came to you guys tonight. So as a private citizen, I transported people to and from the warming center that happened last week. On one of the mornings, it was 19 degrees outside at 7 a.m. when we had to have people leave this building. And not surprisingly, someone died that same day from exposure to the weather. So my request to the city council, to the city manager, and to the city attorney is to please find a way for Yreka Base Camp to be utilized as a temporary location for the warming center until the shelter can be opened. The building is centrally located. It's much better equipped to reduce tension among the guests, to deal with public health issues. And Base Camp would be able to extend the operating hours in the morning to relieve the county workers so that they can go to work, and to not have people out in the cold until other city or county buildings are open. So thank you for listening. And I hope that you can all do the right thing in supporting this temporary plan to protect our most vulnerable citizens. And with that, I would like to introduce Amber for her first city council.
All right. Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Amber Lacey, and I was born here in Yreka. I'm a citizen, and I've been homeless for a couple of years. And I just wanted to say I really liked the warming shelter last week. It was really, really awesome, and it really helped. It was so great that they came to get us and everything. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm really, really excited about the shelter. I just wanted to say I'm so excited about it, and I just hope that they can find a way to do it sooner. I knew the person that died also, but I just want to say I'm really excited about the shelter, and I hope that that we can open it as soon as possible. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Lima, as most of you know, and I am also here as a private citizen. I thought about sharing with you guys all the things of how cold is it outside and how comfortable are we sitting in here right now. And if we were to open that door and finish the rest of our meeting, how comfortable would we all feel sitting in here the colder that it gets? But I thought, what's the point, right? You all know that it's cold. And I'm here to say there's no reason that the city, the manager, with no disrespect, Jason, and the attorney and Base Camp and all of the people that need to make decisions, there is no reason that people cannot sit in the room, figure out what the problem is, that they cannot have a temporary use permit, and solve the problem. It's not like we have to, tear down a dam, right? That takes a long time, or build a bridge. It's sit down, get all the people in the room that have the ability to make decisions. You have an attorney on site. Let folks know if what they're trying to do, this isn't the right path, but hey, here is the right path. So we can get these folks off of a muddy hill that folks, you had somebody that died. Granted, they could have been at the warming center. That's an example of a human being that didn't make it. There's a lot of folks. I've heard the numbers of people that are showing up here. There are people that want to be warm and have a right to be warm. We have a building sitting empty. We have beds at the building. We have people willing to work it. There are other community members that are volunteering their time to keep these centers open. It's ridiculous to not be able to come to an agreement in one room in one moment. You have an attorney, you have council people, you have a city manager. There's no reason not to be able to get there. And so I am saying, I am urging you guys to sit in the room together, figure out the problem, and open the shelter even on a temporary pass. There has been a business in that building for years. Nobody's had an issue with that building and nobody's had an issue with all the work that happened in there. But now that we're trying to make it a better place, we're going to hold off. And I know we all have liabilities. I wonder what the city's liability is with the porta potties that got set out for the folks that are living on the hill. Somehow we got around that and nobody's harmed themselves that I'm aware of. But I've seen the porta potty tipped over upside down for sure. But people still get to use a potty, right? I'm encouraging you guys to work it out. You have people, smart people in the room and at the table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Hello, my name is Sadie Wilson. I am coming also as a private citizen, but also a formerly homeless person from Yreka. I am here to reiterate the requests for opening base camp as a temporary shelter for our community members that are suffering from homelessness right now. This newly constructed facility is more equipped and capable of managing these things. And it's designed to house people during the evenings and get them out of the weather. Our current emergency warming shelter facilities are not efficient or purpose-driven. They do not convey our values of humanity and dignity and compassion. I believe that the base camp location for temporary warming shelter space will allow our community members seeking shelter and assistance in already devastating parts of their lives. Will help them feel some sense of dignity, and being recognized as humans, which is not otherwise offered sleeping on the floors. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jack Phillips, Mount Shasta. So Emilio Estevez did a movie called The Public. And if you've never seen it, you should see it. It addresses this issue. It addresses the issue, what is a public building and what is it for? So I highly recommend everyone watch it. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think that's on, Dunmary.
Now, Maria Autry, you probably could hear me better on this one anyway. I would ask that you guys please figure this out to save lives, save more lives. It's only going to get colder. You know it. This is the coldest time now in February. So please figure this out so we don't have to have another person die.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time?
Yeah, I'm sure most of you know me. I pick up garbage in carts every day. First question, how many people came to the shelter here? 9. How many we got in Yreka? How many?
Almost.
Yeah,
I think they have.
well, we need a number. You know, those people aren't gonna come off that hill. You guys all know that. You know, I pick up their trash every day. When we get our water samples back, that's running down that gutter, you're gonna be amazed what's there. You gotta do something. The PD came to me 5 years ago and asked me to start a cleanup group. I've been doing it for 5 years. If you guys haven't gone down and looked at that creek, and I can guarantee you, as soon as those dams are out, Greenhorn's going next, and so's Dwinell. And there's nothing you can do about it. So we gotta do something. We really do. This town is a absolute mess. April the 10th, I've been here 70 years. And I'm about ready to pack up and leave. It's disgusting. And all you people that think that you're gonna help these people, it's the fentanyl and the mental health. You're gonna have to do something about it. My wife's boy is one of the ones that died up there in the Saguenay from those people taking the drugs from their patients. I've got no patience for this anymore. Do something or we will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Good evening, Council. I'm Henry Lancaster of 504 North Street. I'm a citizen here of this city. I also work at the Freemasons Temple here in town, one of your oldest institutions and charities in the city. For one, upon the homeless crisis, as I used to be a city councilor back in my own home city, I brought up bringing up an entire homeless shelter myself, and the people ended up voting it down. And even since I came here in the years later, the reflection back there is it was just a worse and worse crisis. And I've honestly been seeing that reflect here as well over the years of people dying and other crises like that with the whole mental institution. And it's sad because I couldn't do anything back then to do anything. And I'm just seeing it happen again. So I want to see it stopped. And the other one, as just a private citizen's note, we had the whole marijuana operations coming into town. Another thing I did was legalize weed in my home city. And it brought a lot of profit to try and do good. I understand that you're not doing it for upfront operations to sell it, but the legalization of it did help. And we did it for many good things in our hometown. Let's see what's. All right, yeah, that's all I can really keep in track of my head right now. I had other things, but I'll try and bring it up next month. You all have a good night and take care.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, I will close public comment at this time. And we'll move on to item number 7. This is consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered routine and non-controversial and will be enacted by one motion unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. A, approval ratification of payments issued from December 11th, 2023 through January 7th, 2024. B, approval of minutes of the special meeting held December 13th, 2023. C, approval of minutes of the regular meeting held December 19th, 2023. D, cash balances, budget to actual, and treasurer's reports for June 2023. E, cash balances, budget to actual, and fiscal performance reports for July 2023. F, approve of resolution 2024-01, resolution of the City Council of the City of Yreka accepting irrevocable offer to dedication number 2022-2028 Finley Brothers Properties LLC, Todd W. Whipple and Stacy R. Whipple, trustees portion of Northview Drive. G, approval of resolution 2024-02 for the special event known as Beef and Brew. H, adopt resolution 2024-03, appointing representatives to the Board of Directors, Small Cities Organized Risk Effort, SCORE. The recommended city council action before you is the motion to adopt the consent agenda of the city council of the city of Yreka as presented. What are the wishes of the council?
This is Councilman McCoy. So moved.
I have a motion from Councilman McCoy
Second it.
and a second from Councilman Kaeg. I'll do roll call. And Councilman Kaeg,
Aye.
Councilman McCoy,
Aye.
and Mayor Middleton, aye. The motion passes. Okay. We move on to old business. Looks like, well, it says none, but we do have it here. Assistant City Manager, agenda title. This should agenda title, approval of contract with State of California Department of Cannabis Control for $115,000 retail cannabis licensing program grant. The city applied for resolution 2023-16 dated March 21st, 2023, and received a retail cannabis licensing program grant award. The State of California Department of Cannabis Control, hereafter referred to the DCC, has prepared the attached contract that outlines the terms of the grant compliance. Is this Retta, or is this
Yeah,
you,
this
Mr.
is
Ledbetter?
the Assistant City Manager, Miss Hogan will come down.
I'm sorry, Miss Hogan.
Coordinator on this. But this
Even-
item was brought to you at the last city council meeting. I believe that was December 19th, to consider the grant opportunity that the city received was from the Department of Cannabis Control. Received a grant for $115,000 for opening non-storefront medicinal marijuana dispensary. And this grant would give us sort of the opportunity to comply with state law as well, that as currently we do not allow in our zoning code for cannabis dispensaries in the city. And this is again to move forward with setting up the licensing and program for a medicinal marijuana dispensary, non-retail storefront.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hogan. Oh.
Do you want me to address, the second part of
Okay.
that would be to enter into a contractual relationship with consultants, SCICG, for implementing the contract in setting up that licensing protocol and program.
All right, thank you. They're two separate items. Okay. Any, what's that? I'm sorry. Go ahead and ask. Yeah, I'm sorry. Questions? Probably, yeah. Okay. I guess I go to you guys first, right? For questions, I guess. Council has any questions for Ms. Hogan?
No, Ms.
Okay.
Hogan, it's covered.
Okay.
Ms. Hogan has covered it with me, gone over the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay.
And I appreciate her time that she spent with me.
Okay. All right. I will open up to public comment regarding 8A.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Louise Gliado. I live in Yreka. And I'm here to talk to you tonight about this resolution 2023-16 to apply for the Cannabis Retail Access Grant Program funding in order to comply with the mandate of SB 1186, titled Medicinal Cannabis Patient Right of Access Act. The resolution was passed by the council by a 3-2 vote, in March of 2003. And the city received notice in June, I believe, if my memory is correct, that we had been awarded the grant for $115,000. And I have some questions for the city council members, although I know they can't answer me tonight, but it's something for you to think about. Did any of the council members get a heads up before the March 21st meeting? Were you aware of this law before it was posted as an agenda item? Did the city manager meet with any of the council on a one-to-one basis to educate you about the bill or the opportunities to receive a grant? Were you aware when you voted that the League of California Cities, which is comprised of 482 municipalities, the Rural County Representatives of California, known as the RCRC, with 40 members, and the League of the California Cities opposed this bill? Had you known that the other cities and counties were opposed to the state mandate to promote medical marijuana deliveries, would you have voted not to accept the grant? Have you read the details of the grant as to what we have agreed to do to receive this money? I call it bribery. If we accept the grant, the city must, and if you've looked at the details, you'll know this, but I'm going to say them anyway. You must conduct public town hall meetings. You must coordinate tours of existing retail facilities in the regional cities and site visits for elected officials. You must also conduct city council workshops on implementation, progress, and discussion on storefront retail and industry regulations. You must do press releases, hire staff and/or contractors, hold community outreach meetings and engagement events, consult local jurisdictions with existing cannabis programs. And lastly, assist an equity applicant with financial, technical, license applications, legal guidance, and compliance training. Who or what is an equity applicant? I had to look this up. And what it says, it's someone with a criminal record or who lives with someone with a criminal conviction. These are not your usually people with good resumes. Yreka does not have to do this. If we turn down the grant, all that is required by this law is to adopt an ordinance allowing or not impeding in any way delivery of medical marijuana and allow a non-retail storefront for storage of this medical pot if somebody applies. The law does not say we have to recruit someone to do the deliveries. We treat these business applicants like any other person or company who want to start a business, such as a pharmacy that sells medicine, real medicine. They deliver also. How easy is that? We have a very capable and efficient city planner who could copy Siskiyou County's or Mount Shasta's or Dunmere's ordinance or write her own. Let's maintain the city's dignity, independence, and moral values and not sell out Yreka and grovel at the feet of California tyrants for money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack Phillips, Mount Shasta. California Business Professional Code, Section 26.3.23.22. Section A5 states, summarizing, the city must not hinder or stop the establishment of one physical location from which the retail sale by delivery of medical cannabis by a licensed non-storefront retailer. This is the bare minimum requirement that requires the city to take no action, but to simply allow a cannabis retailer to store and deliver their products in your city. So there's no reason to accept the grant money because all that would do is facilitate the opening of a cannabis dispensary, which most residents of Yreka don't want. So why do most residents oppose having cannabis dispensaries? Answer, because the state of California is headed down a path to legalize all drugs, such as magic mushrooms, ketamine, cocaine, and heroin. And if your life really begins to suck and no drug can relieve your misery, I'm sure the drug dispensary will also offer assisted suicide, cremation, funeral services, and burial services. And thank God for that, because if all drugs are legal, we surely don't want a bunch of overdosed dead people littering the streets of Yreka. From the Washington Post, July 7th, 2023, title, Once held for decriminalizing drugs, Portugal is now having doubts. Portugal decriminalized all drug use, including marijuana, cocaine, and heroin, in an experiment that inspired similar efforts elsewhere, but now police are blaming a spike in the number of people who use drugs for the rise in crime. Imagine that. Portugal became a model for progressive jurisdictions around the world embracing drug decriminalization, such as the state of Oregon. But now there is talk of fatigue. Police are less motivated to register people who misuse drugs. There are year-long waits for state-funded rehabilitation treatments, even though the number of people seeking help has fallen dramatically. The return in numbers of visible urban drug use is leading the mayor and others to ask an explosive question. Is it time to reconsider this country's globally held drug model? Well, imagine that. The mayor and other citizens are questioning if making all drugs legal was a good idea. I think the mayor of Yreka and the city council need to ask themselves the same question. Is making drugs legal and readily available a good idea? Honestly, California and America have been going in the wrong direction for 40 years. Every aspect of life has progressively gotten worse. There are no quick fixes, but we can slowly turn around and go in the right direction if we have the courage and common sense to just say no. Nancy Reagan. To the crazy people running the state and federal government, please vote no. Don't accept the grant money. Don't help drug dealers open businesses in Yreka. Let them do it themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Diane Collier, Yreka. I just want to stand with the last two speakers. I'm in opposition to accepting this. And I don't think it's going to do what everybody hopes it's going to do. Sounds like there's going to be a lot more expense with it than there's going to be, 115,000. It's not like you get that 115 to do whatever you want with. There's going to be expense. And I just think it's a gate. It'd be great. Marijuana is not what it used to be. We know that. I mean, it'd be great if it could be a little more simple and not so ominous, but it's just opening the door to more and more. And if you think that these people, I already know one person who spoke to dispensary folks who are going out to Shasta Vistas to get their pot from them. So, and they've already proven that the dispensaries, I mean, this is going to lead to a dispensary. They're going to push us this way. California, we let them get a grip and they're going to push us where they want us. And that's what we're opposed to. I used to think, oh yeah, legalize everything, but the problems that come with it just aren't worth it. And these drugs, they've tested them in these dispensaries and they're not safe. It'd be great if you knew they were safe, but we don't have any of that in place. It's really, they have done us a disservice with opening this Pandora's box and not have any structure in place for any of this to make it safe. They don't measure their gram. I mean, they say, oh yeah, you're so many grams. Now they have to put a label on it, but do they really know? No, they don't. So I just, and when I go through Medford, there's certain areas that have these holding facilities and you can smell them a mile away. You got to close your vents in your car because you drive by and it reeks. The old pot never reeked. It kind of had a sweet smell to it. This stuff is like a skunk. It's disgusting. And I know down in Placer County, there is rules with air pollution where if you complain about the smell, air pollution does have a way to go in there and deal with that. And I believe I don't know in our county what we've got. And that's one thing I do plan to look forward more forward into with Placer County is how they went about that and how they were able to mitigate it. And I do know that law enforcement worked with air pollution because they could go in and get into the sites and they would be the gateway for the cops to come in behind them and do their busts. So there's that. It is a nuisance. I don't want to have a nuisance. I don't want to go down the street and smell that stuff. I mean, I think that's my biggest beef too, is I just don't want to smell it. Keep it to yourself. I don't want to smell your stuff, you know? So all the way around, there's a guy in Yreka. The sheriff's department there is failing with, their budget is in such severe trouble. They hung their hat on the marijuana money and now it's not there. The market has changed. They're not getting the revenues. They can't buy simple things like a postage meter to handle the amount of postage that they need to get done. I know this because I was trying to re-up my contract with Quadient. So, and he was just saying no. And he owns a property. His property burned. And when it burned, he can't get in there yet because of all the illegal roads and it just brings in the illegal part of this. Like it or not, it's a fact. We have it. We can go out and see it whenever we want. The legal roads, the contamination, now he is delayed on getting his property fixed and rebuilt and getting to it and getting it cleaned up because of all the growers around him. If we could eliminate these cartels, but we're not going to. You know, they're criminals. That's what they are. That's what they do. They don't care about laws. They don't care about anything else. And if we think these dispensaries aren't related to that, you're sadly mistaken. That's not fact. We know that's not fact. There's too many people out there privately investigating, finding out. So I don't think it's a good idea. You know, I'm not saying people don't get I wish there was a easier way for them to get a clean, they want some pot to relieve their pain. I'm not saying alcohol is better because it's not, we know that, but how we go about it, I just think we should be very careful how we go about things. I just do. So I want to keep our community as nice as we can.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay.
My name is Jenny O'Gorman. I live in Yreka proper. I've been in this area for over 50 plus years. I teach in public school. I'm retiring this year. From a personal standpoint, the marijuana, well, we're going to put vape detectors in our bathrooms so we can figure out who's smoking and who's vaping the pot. And we all know the kids can get this anywhere on the street or order it online or whatever. We don't need to promote that in our community. So I'm urging you to vote no and reject the grant for the dispensaries of any kind. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other public comment? All right, is it public comment online? Okay, nobody else has their hands raised. All right. Okay, I will close public comment. The recommended city council action before you is the motion for approval of contract with the State of California Department of Cannabis Control for $115,000 retail cannabis licensing program grant. What are the wishes of the council? Oh, okay. And this is two parts, so.
What's that?
And this will be two
This
parts.
first part, I'll start it off. And I appreciate everybody's input tonight. I hear, unfortunately, a lot of us complain about our state of California. I'm a 5th generation native Californian. And we complain about our state. Our good state has somewhere along the way, and I don't say, I'm not looking at Republican or Democrat, somewhere along the way, it's been hijacked just by, certain things. Now the U.S. Supreme Court is involved. If you haven't noticed, in the homeless issue, they became involved early, I guess late last week, early this week. I think everybody has made a great point. What I'm looking at, one of the things I'm looking at is we're not hanging our hat on as far as selling pot, and I don't think this council is looking at selling pot at this point in time. I think what we are doing is we're looking at the fact that we have a staff that's overburdened. We have $101 million, I think, in grants starting in June, starting last June, that were on desks over in that office. And I know people say you have a lot of people over there. We've got a lot going on. We have a lot of projects, $101 million in projects, I think. Wasn't about something like that when we started this summer?
Yeah, well, within concept, so there are some state revolving fund
Yeah.
grant applications with Pace Engineering that are yet to be approved
Yeah,
for
not being
wastewater and
built,
water.
but it's somewhere from being built to being accepted. And this grant, as I see it at this point in time, is not, the grant itself is not inherently evil, but what it is trying to do for us is to give us some money so we can have somebody write, so we can, if in fact, at some point in time, it does come down the pipe that we have to allow delivery, that we can be ahead of the eight ball. So, and I do appreciate the comments. I appreciate, particularly Miss O'Gorman's having a daughter go through Jackson or through, Yreka High. I appreciate the comment about the pot, because she's been out of school 13 years and she could tell me everyone and every bathroom that pot was being smoked in. And it's funny because I was a teacher 30 years, you know that, that we as teachers have a hard time pinpointing. We think we know who those kids are, but we do have a hard time pinpointing it. We know that pot isn't the same as when any of us were younger. We understand that. We have neighbors that grow pot. I'm not big on the smell. But that's just, I mean, and I get PO'd about it, because I have asthma real bad. But again, I'm not sure that I don't think the smell is any stronger than when I was in high school or college. It does bother me when I go to a local laundromat, and I have to, I'm doing my rags or my big dog rugs, and I have to, smell it. And it's in all the laundromats here in town. It used to be just on the weekends. Now it's 7 days a week. Our washer recently broke down. It was over the holidays. It was 4 weeks before we could get a part and get it fixed. And so, yeah, the smell was not a great thing. It's not my bag, but I have to look at it from a different standpoint, and I have to look at it, Mr. Mayor and City Councilman Keg, I have to look at it from, rather than pulling money out of our pockets, out of our general fund, and using that to pay to hire somebody, or to try and spread somebody like Juliana, who is, who's well versed in this, and is already spread very thin with the master plan process. I'm going to have to I'm going to support it. I'll make a motion to, let me read it. I'll make a motion for approval of contract with State of California Department of Cannabis Control for $115,000 retail cannabis licensing program grant. All
right. Thank you, Councilman McCoy. All right. I have a motion from Councilman McCoy. I will second the motion. So the first and second, I will do roll call. Councilman Kaeg.
Actually, I've had a change of heart. I'm tired of state mandate, so I'm gonna actually say nay.
Councilman Kaeg, nay. Councilman McCoy.
Aye.
And I will be aye. So the two absences, the majority, the motion passes. All right. Thank you, guys. All right. No public hearing tonight, correct? Oh, wait, sorry. I gotta go to AB. Hold up. Okay. Okay, so the 8B, this is agenda title. This is approval of professional services agreement with SCI-CG for establishment of cannabis licensing program. City staff applied and received a retail cannabis license program grant award. City staff has reviewed qualified contractors' experience with retail cannabis licensing programs and is recommending awarding the contract to SCI-CG for establishment of the retail licensing program to assist in completing the grant requirements. That
In-
public, oh,
I'm sorry
Okay.
to cut you
Oh.
off, but if we can just seek clarification
Oh.
and validation from the city attorney that the 2-1 simple majority was appropriate for that item. Otherwise, this next item's irrelevant. And
Okay.
so I just wanted to get clarification. And I know that we're having audio issues,
Oh.
but I believe that these two back there at the computer can seek validation from Mr. Jared. Is it appropriate that a 2-1 on item 8A is considered approval?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yes, because this is not a resolution or is not a ordinance, a simple majority of those present is appropriate, and the motion did pass.
Thank you very much for clarifying that for me. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay. So where was I? Did I read it all? Okay, okay. All right. I will open any questions from the council on 8B. Okay, I will open for public comment regarding 8P. Okay, I'll close public comment. Recommend city council action before you is the motion for approval of professional service agreement with SCI-CG for establishment of cannabis licensing program. I will make the motion. Do I have a second?
I will second the motion. This is Paul McCoy.
And I have a second from Councilman McCoy. I'll do roll call. Councilman Cake?
Since I said nay on first, I'll say nay on the second.
Thank you. Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
And I, Mayor Middleton, the motion passes. Item number 9, there's no public hearing. 10, looks like there's no new business, correct? So we move on to item number 11. This is city manager and staff reports. City manager and staff may make brief announcements or reports at this time. The major city accomplishments and projects for 2023 presentation by city manager Jason Ledbetter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I
guess
think
we'll-
while people funnel out,
Yeah.
we'll just hold off a minute. We're gonna reflect on all the work that the city's done over the last year, in case anybody wanted to stick around and learn more about that.
All right, we'll let them. Doesn't look like they want to hear, so we'll hold up for a minute while they shuffle out.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Yreka City Council. This is Jason Ledbetter, the city manager for the city of Yreka. We just wanted to go through, this was a great opportunity here in January with kind of a light meeting to reflect on all the work that not only staff did, but the city council played a part in facilitating. And so ultimately, if we can move on to the very next slide, please. Or start with human resources. So as you'll recall, Mr. Elsnab negotiated a multitude of different contracts with different representative bargaining units successfully this last year. We also increased operational capacity with the addition of 2 staff accountants, a city clerk, a planning manager, and the resiliency officer position that is still being recruited for. As you'll recall, we got $1 million grant from CAL FIRE from OES, the state OES, to fill a position for 5 years known as a resiliency officer. And there were no labor grievances filed in the last 2 years with the represented units. Next slide, please. So finance obviously just went through an audit here at the end of 2023, prepared all the audit financial statements. There were a number of updated fee schedules that took place that this city council voted on. Obviously, who can forget the water and wastewater rate study and everything that came after the 218 process that we successfully implemented here recently. A number of development impact fees for water, wastewater, and the fire department were added. And recruitment and training of the new staff hires, specifically the 2 staff accountant positions. Next slide, please. So community development, obviously a very busy year for them. If you can recall, with what I just said, also in 2023, you guys passed your housing element. If you remember that, it was a very busy year. We also had the housing tools came on, and they did a land survey for different possibilities of vacant parcels within the city limits and where possible housing development could take place. We've had 7 housing developer inquiries. And 4 property owners are engaged in property negotiations at the moment. No resulting sales as at this time. Next slide. So within the Economic Development Department, we have the Brownfields grant. So we had completed the soil cleanup of the South Foothill property. We're obviously in negotiation or discussing the possibility of some type of a lease agreement on that property. But definitely a project near and dear to a couple different city council members was getting that property cleaned up. 10 projects completed in 2023 for brownfields and 147,000 in brownfield assessments in the community. We also had with the Economic Development Council an EDA cluster industry study analysis, and the recreation rural economy. We finalized and voted and adopted here the RERC document that talked about all of the different opportunities for tourism within the city of Yreka. Next slide. So very busy in community development. The planning department intook 61 private planning projects. 32 private projects were completed with an average process time of 3.4 months. The building department issued 141 building permits for a total of $5.3 million in construction, and then finalized 93 building permits. Next slide. So as far as resiliency, after coming out of the McKinney fire the prior year, we were very successful. The assistant city manager, Hogan, was extremely successful on a number of grant opportunities. First and foremost, the OES $1 million resiliency position, and that grant, that's good for 5 years. We're currently recruiting that position, but this is a very key position for the fire department and for keeping the community safe. We plan on running a number of different grant opportunities with this individual, who then would manage, hopefully, defensible space grants and contracts for mitigating or masticating grasslands in the community, and also limbing different trees in areas that are required. Or we've had Jay Perkins, who looks like stepped out, but ultimately has mapped the city for some priority areas that this individual would be working on. We also received $1 million grant from CAL FIRE for climate change, and primarily this is going to be used for an air curtain burner. And so we're going through the process with CAL FIRE right now on the equipment purchases to utilize and expend funds within this grant. And then we have an application in for wildfire defense grants for $3 million defensible space vegetative management project if awarded. And then we're looking at different opportunities here with what we'll call CRC, Community Resilience Centers. So not only for this building, but we see opportunities with the community center and the community theater. Community resiliency centers, there's a lot of money being funded, grant opportunities at the moment. These would be locations if we did have another emergency, or if Pacific Corps turned off the power for some reason and folks, just normal folks within the community, needed to centralize for heat or air conditioning, we would be able to house them at those facilities. So we're definitely adamant to try to gain some of this funding in order to improve our facilities to facilitate a location for the community. Next slide. So I believe all of you participated on May 28th. This picture on this slide here, this is the community engagement for intergenerational needs. So I did participate with the planning director. We were able to go into Jess Bray's class at the high school and work with some of the high school students and then integrate them into this really cool study or this really cool opportunity where we had different generations looking at what needs they had moving forward, whether that be in 5, 10, 15, or 20 years, and then have them have a conversation at a table with folks that were in a different generation bracket to kind of spur conversation as to maybe understanding somebody else's needs in regard to your own needs. Or it was a great opportunity for some of the older folks to explain needs that the younger generations maybe did not understand that they were going to have in the future. So this was a really successful event. And then Megan Daly's office held a site visit plan to learn more about the city's planning and public engagement projects, where Assistant City Manager Hogan and also Community Development Director Juliana Lucchese, and I believe was Alia involved in that as well. Our planning manager, Alia Roca Lesra, was involved. And so it was really nice to have Megan Daly, who's been really engaged with this office, quite frankly, or with this city hall, at least since ever I've stepped foot. She was definitely the first to engage us over the McKinney fire. And so we're kind of slowly building a relationship with that office, which has been very positive. Next slide. So ultimately, we went about creating a position, seeing a need for a city clerk position, and certainly happy to report that Cindy Prohaska, who has taken over as our city clerk back there in the back. Thank you both for rectifying that audio issue. Formation and development of working plans from the Communications Ad Hoc Committee. So we formed the Communications Ad Hoc Committee. That'll get started back up, I believe, on the 23rd. We'll have another meeting. So we still have a handful of meetings where we're discussing different opportunities to have better communication with the public. We onboarded new legal firms for city attorney. So we brought in an attorney firm specific to water issues. We brought in an attorney firm, or you guys brought in an attorney firm specific to code enforcement, and obviously your general city representation with your city attorney, obviously here tonight, Mr. Andrew Jared with CHW. Working on updating public engagement ordinances, collaborating on meeting live stream with Siskiyou Media Council, which is ultimately what they've transitioned here, Ms. Hogan and Ms. Prohaska. We no longer take public comment on Zoom, but there is a feed that you can watch these videos from. So ultimately, we will always have our city attorney when there's not a need for him to be here presently, or if we have somebody that needs to engage us that's contracting with us, maybe it's Pace Engineering or one of these other engineering outfits, we can have them on the television, but ultimately we're no longer taking commentary or public comment via Zoom. Next slide. So the revenue plan goals. So obviously we updated the development fees for water, wastewater, and fire. Completion of water and wastewater rate study in the 218 process, which we're just kind of getting out of. Annual review of fees for services. Initiation of stormwater development fees study is something that's happening internally at the moment. An initiated study for sales tax measure for public safety, where we're going to have a broader conversation of that, I think, on January 30th, and leading into the possibility as to whether or not the city council is interested in looking at a sales tax measure for specifically public safety, and legally the other items that other things for the city as well. So next slide. So it's been very busy for the fire department as well. Councilmember Kaag and Pro Tem McCoy joined us on the Fire Ad Hoc Committee, where we had a handful of meetings at the community center with different members of either the volunteer department or the emergency response or safety field. We worked with city staff in preparing campaign for paid fire staff in the future. And we've engaged NMR for basically the creation of the new fire station. And so we have had multiple meetings behind the scenes with fire staff and with public works staff, engaging NMR on the beginnings of engineering the design for a hypothetical new fire hall. Next slide. Just a great relationship. I'm gonna do just gonna give a shout out to a guy in the audience here who's retired, Mr. Phil Anzo. But ever since stepping foot here in this position, I've just had a remarkable relationship with CAL FIRE, whether that be with Daryl Laws, who just retired, or Phil Anzo, who retired before that. And I'm sure that whoever takes over, we're gonna have a very positive relationship with. But they've done a ton of work for us in Greenhorn with vegetative management and hazardous fuel reduction. We're hopeful to continue that relationship. We don't see why we wouldn't be able to. We accepted delivery of Type 6 wildland apparatus, which provides a well-rounded fire attack for vegetation fires within the city. Completed the 501c3 to form Yreka Firefighters Association. Collaborated with the YMCA and other allied agencies to develop fall prevention programs for seniors, and collaborated with Fairchild Medical Administration to address frequent flyers which overload emergency room as well as cause burnout amongst fire and EMS personnel. Next slide, please. Over at YPD, there was the implementation of the Sunridge dispatching services that was completed in 2023. Executed or renewed MOUs for task force, homeless liaison, and school resource officer in the community. We sought grant funding for community-oriented policing programs. And largest Shop with a Cop event to date, 65 children received each a $200 gift card this last go around in 2023. Next slide, please. As far as YPD and code enforcement, had a very successful year. If you'll recall, there was property demolition on State Street across from Suburban Propane. 2 properties got remediated off of Bluebird. An engagement contract for new city prosecutor, Curtis Wright, Silver and Wright, was initiated. In the shopping carts, the active pickup services are in place. We had Mr. Atwood, who I believe has been contracted and is now employed by a couple of the businesses in the community to pick up shopping carts, and ultimately going from the intent of the ordinance to actually compliance. I think people are seeing an impact out there within the community. And then obviously the continued weed abatement program that we run every year. Next slide, please. Public Works was extremely busy in 2023. The Fall Creek pipeline relocation is complete and in use. The Fall Creek A dam, B dam, and hatchery improvements are complete. Upgraded the SCADA system. Complete refurbish of Fall Creek pump number 2. Replaced soft start controller for Fall Creek pump number 3. Finalized drawing package for 2 new tanks and reserve well, and implemented cartograph maintenance program. Next slide. You can see some of the work that this crew had to deal with. And ultimately, I think we're all pretty familiar is that we did have some hiccups along the way with other contractors and other agencies working in the community. Definitely the water line got hit a couple times, and then ultimately the Fall Creek transition there and that new line that got put in ultimately led to kind of concern and rationing, and ultimately we were lucky that we had done a really good job on the front end of that project, and Roy and Matt in Public Works had made sure that we were pretty much topped off on all of our holding tanks for water, so that when an issue did arise, we did not have to go into a boil water notice. Next slide, please. So you can see here is there were some emergency repairs that had to get done. I think a number of you had texted me different imagery. I think at one point, the folks that had hit this line, my understanding, water was flying over Interstate 5 at that time, although this got hit, I think, 3 times in a matter of, I don't know, a week and a half. So it's kind of a blur at this moment, but this is our crew handles these repairs. And so it was a really good opportunity, I think, for Public Works. It's unfortunate when these things happen, but we have seen a transition of folks retiring out and newer folks coming on. And so it was a great opportunity for our Public Works director to get out and do on-site training when this happened. And so he was highly involved with folks that had never gone through anything like this. And so we feel pretty good having gone through it 3 times that a lot of people got a lot of good experience. Next slide, please. So Public Works Sewer Treatment Plant, they did some field trips and ultimately ended up deciding to choose a new tertiary filter. The Aqua Disc will be the new upgraded filter that we're shooting for in one of these state revolving funds grants that we're going after. We are transitioning into grade 4 at water and wastewater. And so our wastewater manager, Mitch, he passed his grade 4 exam. Matt passed grade 3, Jeff Green passed grade 3 exam, and we're currently recruiting an OIT position. Maintained a high quality effluent, which exceeds all state water resource control discharge requirements. Began industrial waste survey with Pace Engineering and performed and submitted priority pollutant scan. And then we have some maintenance projects here. Serviced and replaced seals on both West RAS pumps. Fixed wiring issues to clarifier number 2 drive unit. Effluent pump and recirculation pumps rebuilt. Replaced headworks brushes. Rehabilitated levee between ponds. And Android's completed 12,000 service on centrifuge. So things that you never really hear about, but general maintenance, there is always something going on in water and wastewater. Next slide. And so a project that I know many in the community are happy about because they're getting somewhat of a new road over the top of this, and also a new sewer system. What we call internally the Burgess Street Sewer Project, also known as the Wastewater Collection System Improvements. A lot of work done on this project. They're not completed at this point. It'll get picked up back again in the spring. But a huge heavy lift here in this area, which will result in a much better road over the top of this neighborhood, which is in dire need of it. Next slide, please. And so over at the corner of Knapp in Oregon, here at the basketball courts, there was a huge repair on the basketball courts. A pickleball court was installed at this site as well. And then working with a nonprofit here locally, the Minor Street Arch was rehabilitated, if anybody had seen that project. Next slide. So you can see the before and after here of these locations. You have the pickleball on the left and then the fix to the cracks of the basketball court there on the right. Next slide, please. And then, of course, doing good by the Measure C money. The 2023 chip seal project included Shasta Avenue, Humbug Road, Georgia and Wetzel Way, Herzog Boulevard, Allen and East Lenox Street, and Shasta Avenue. Next slide, please. And then this all happened in the same year, folks. This was a very busy year for the city of Yreka. So I think one that got a lot of the community talking was really directed by a dream that Matt Bray, the director of Public Works, had for Minor Street. And ultimately this beautiful fog seal, calming striping, and this really cool, I think what we're all calling the Beatles Abbey Road crosswalks. Really made a huge impact to the community, and I think showed what's possible for our downtown area. And this really wasn't something that cost us an enormous amount of money. And so the level of beautification on this street, combined with Tammy's work with the floral planters, has really done wonders, in my opinion, for Minor Street. Next slide. That's all, folks. So that's my report for the evening. But I just want to thank the staff, the council, and really reflect on this presentation, because this all just happened in the year 2023. And that was an extremely productive year for the city of Yreka staff and every single department here. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledbetter. Yeah, what a great year in review. Looking back, I remember a lot of it, but some of it I forgot about. Oh yeah, that did happen last year. There was so much going on. So thank you to all the staff, you know, in every department within our city and our city council, and everybody for making it happen to make Yreka a better place to live. You know, I know we have the people up here saying our town is bad and looks bad and it's the worst city ever. That's not true. I think we have great citizens and we're working hard to improve it and make it better. And that's what everybody does every day in the city of Yreka. So thank you very much. All right, with that, anybody else from staff? Oh, okay. Wow, this is rare. Chief,
Someone told me recently that I should be up here more.
Chief Gilman, hello.
No, actually, it was good timing. This is Chief Gilman. Sergeant Hasselmeyer gave me the stats for 2023 for us. So with your thing today, I brought the stat. He just gave them to me today. So if people are curious how busy YPD is, we're still the busiest agency in the county, even though we're smaller than one of the largest agencies. We handled over 30,000 calls in 2023.
Oh my gosh.
30,754. That's an average of 2,500 plus calls a month that we handle. We made, we took 2,387 cases and we made 1,209 arrests and we issued 743 tickets. So that's what we do at YPD. So I thought on top of his thing, it'd be nice for you guys to see the stats of how busy we are with a couple guys on the street at a time. Keeps us pretty busy. And I'll give this to you in case you want to look that up. So that's all I had. I just wanted to throw the stats out there.
All right. Thank you, Chief Gilman, and thank you for everybody at YPD for everything that you guys do there. And yeah, it is busy. That's for sure. All right. With that, we'll go to council member statements. Who wants to go first? Want to flip a coin? Councilman K, you can go
Let's
first.
over some of our meetings. We had the advisory board meeting back on January 3rd. Just want to thank everybody. We've had a full house at our advisory board meetings. It's really cool. Thank you, Don Marie and Lorenzo, for coming religiously and showing up and voicing your opinion and actually coming with some good solutions to it. Thank you. On a lot of different levels. Thank you. We have, I just wanted to let everybody know some of the topics, we talked about updates. We talked about all the things going on. We talked about the warming center. We talked about one of the things we could talk about is a resource fair. I just want everybody to know we're having a resource fair. The date is on the 24th of this month. We're going to meet at 1200 South Main Street at 1:30 to 2:30. The resource fair is going to be in conjunction for the homeless, obviously, bringing together different entities and hopefully bring services and whatnot to the homeless. So this is what our first meeting is going to be on that. The actual, I'm just gonna have to bring it back up. Sorry, March. Do you remember what it was? March? I can bring it up. I'll find out in a second. But anyways, the meeting to start organizing this is on January 24th. 1200 South Main Street, and we'll be discussing all the things we want to see at the resource fair. Some of the people that are coming to these advisory board meetings, I just want people to know how many people we have involved. Of course, me involved in it. These are the people that are actually on the committee, just so people know. Mike Iotto, who is a homeless individual. Trish Barbiero, who's in social services. Christina Brown, Fairchild Medical Center. Rachel Clem, which is part of United Way, which is handling all of our point in time count and some of this other stuff now that they're stepping up to the plate since Shasta County is pulled back. Brittany Collier, Assistant County Office of Education. Sarah Collard, Health and Human Services. Mark Gilman, Chief of Police. Michelle O'Gorman, Community Resource Collaborative Resource Center. Nancy Ogren, Assistant County Board of Supervisors. Dees Patterson, Yreka Food Bank. Sarah Spence, Root Tribal Housing Authority, and Sarah Springfield Youth Empowerment Siskiyou. So we have a lot of individuals that are part of this group. And that's just the people that are the board, the members. That's not the people that we have alternates. We have citizens coming, concerned citizens and whatnot. It seems like every meeting we've had a new crew coming up. And of course, our city manager shows up every time. Well, last time he didn't, but he shows up every time. He's always been very making things happen. I think we, you know, we got a little bit of criticism on the warming center. But you know what? It's because of Jason why we had this warming center. It happened because of him. He stepped up and made sure it happened. And so I just thank you for doing that and stepping up to the plate and making sure that may have only been 5 or 6 one night, 9 the other one, but you know what? That's may have saved a life. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to state, I know that the folks have funneled out unfortunately, but I did just want to say that ultimately, yeah, it's about keeping people warm, but you know, when you're not keeping people warm that need to be warm, there's probably a higher likelihood that one of Chief Gilman's law enforcement officers is going to engage somebody in the evening seeking to stay warm. And so it's a net benefit to the city. So
Very good point. I thank you for pointing that out. These individuals don't have a place to go when we don't have a warming center opened up, then these individuals have a higher probability of breaking into a place so they can find a place to stay warm. So thank you. Appreciate that. Today I had, bring it up here. So, scroll back up. I had my point in time meeting today. And, oops. There we go. Sorry, I thought I had it right here in front here, but it moved on me. There we go. Had a point in time meeting today. We went over the forms. We got everything finally finalized. Luckily this year, we're definitely behind because Shasta County, like I think I talked to everybody about this. Shasta County dropped the ball and done. They're not covered, not taking charge on this. So it was kind of free for all. We finally got everything situated. We got the app done today, figured out. We got the documents figured out today. But it was kind of a free for all for trying to figure this out. I could just thank Madeline Bryan. She's part of the county.
She's amazing.
Yeah, if it wasn't for her, none of this would be happening. I'll tell you what, because she's made it all happen. She's done the research. She's helps me out, helps me running the meetings and getting them going. So I just big shout out to her because she's awesome. She has her hands in so many different things. She's trying to get the pallet shelters going. She's trying to get a lot of different things going, and she's one of the go-getters when it comes to trying to get a solution to these problems when it comes to homelessness. We get a lot of people, making comments about how bad these people are and whatnot, but when it comes down to it, we got to find solutions. We don't need to point out the bad qualities. We don't need to point out all the things that are going wrong, but we need to figure out what's going right and how we keep on track on fixing these problems. And that's where people like her have come in, and Jason has been very boisterous on trying to get these solutions handled and whatnot too. So everybody in the committee, Paul's there, Mr. McCoy's there. So we're getting some stuff done, and may not be as fast as everybody wants, but it's happening. And I do want to, encourage the council that we need to come up with some solutions with the clutter and the mess that's going up on the hill. So I know we're working on it as a council, but this is something that obviously we get a lot of calls from a lot of different people, and we need to make that happen now sooner as possible. And, I feel sorry for people like, we hear, talking about getting in the system and not getting out of it. We need to be able to figure out. Mike Ieto, I was talking about earlier, he's one of the homeless guys that's part of our board, and he's trying to make a difference. He's been battling his own little battles over the years, but right now he's working part-time for me at the shop, and he's doing good. We got to give credit to where credit is due on these individuals that are giving a try. He's up there all the time. Every time I have a question, some rumor that's going around, I just ask Mike. I go, Mike, what's going on with this? The latest one was the busload of people getting dropped off up there on the hill. That was not true. And we had that confirmed not only from YPD, but we also had it confirmed from Mike. He went up there on the hill and asked those individuals, was there a busload of individuals dropped off? No, there was not. So he has been very valuable for our committee when it comes to our point in time and everything else, just knowing how to address these situations, ask him in for advice. And when it came down to the weather situation, I consulted with him, and he's has a good feel for what those individuals are going through up on the hill. And so he's been very valuable asset on trying to get movements on the proper way. You know, it's him voicing on the pallet shelters. He says that's the number one thing to get these individuals out of their situation as a first step is a pallet shelter structure. So he's been very helpful on those situations. But anyways, I've been blabbering on long enough. Everybody's tired of listening to me. So I think that was all I had on my list. I just thought I'd go over my meetings and go from there. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Kate. Councilman McCoy.
I want to thank, city manager for reflecting on work last year. There was a lot that went on. We did got a lot of positive things done. I want to, personally thank Mr. Elsnab, who's not here, because working on the collective bargaining agreements, because I know with negotiations last year, he was very helpful and he's very knowledgeable, and I appreciated him. And I think he was looking out for the city as well as for the employees. I want to thank Jerry. Jerry knows I've been on his back for years about electric cars. Electric cars burn totally different than internal combustion. And at the time I first approached Jerry, there were only 257 fire companies in the United States that were trained. And there is a special training to put out an electric car. And as he said, they burn very hot and they're deadly. It's worse than a house fire, I think. So I want to thank you for doing that, Jerry. And I appreciate that you brought it up. I just, even if I'm 70, keep going, hey, Paul, we did this. So thank you. We're not supposed to have favorites. You know, when I was a teacher, we were not supposed to have any favorites. But I want to first give a big shout out to YPD for helping me personally this year and being there for me. And then I want to give you a big shout out for everything you guys are doing. You guys had guys out this weekend when the highway was so bad and they were sitting by the potholes until they could get Caltrans out there. And I know that people don't understand those potholes don't belong to the city because they want us out fixing them. It's very evident. And we don't, if we tried to go out and fix them, Caltrans would come unglued. But we're not going to. But I do have a favorite, and that is a favorite officer. And I'd hope nobody else gets upset, but it is Officer Luna. And I'm glad to see that Luna is back working a little bit because Luna's handler is back, some. So please give Luna my regards and a couple of dog biscuits. She's my favorite. She absolutely. I'm sorry, Lieutenant. She has to have, yes, I realize she has to have a higher rank, Lieutenant. So, and I can't, I'm sooner or later, I want to get a picture of her with her handler and her badge when she gets it. So, Lieutenant's badge. She's up there. She'll be bossing around your other lieutenants pretty soon. Yeah. She probably already does. So. We had an LTC meeting. That's the Local Transportation Commission. And usually our meetings run like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, but this one was a long one. And I'm not going to go in you and tell you that there was like tremendous things of significance. There are a lot of things. They talk about things from all over the county. And Yreka's just a micro of it. But I will tell you that I was encouraged. There was a time when PP&L gave a very nice presentation on what they're doing to fire safe our forests and our cities. And they're putting some what do you call insulators over the currents apparatus that everything runs through on the pole. And so one of the things that they talked about was that they also have money to set up, whether it's wintertime or summertime, indoor camps for cooling, for heating, if there's a severe, it has to be for a severe electric thing. And, Mr. Shannoni from the EMS, also was very courteous and let us know that they have heaters to set up, that they can send home with people, propane heaters that I guess are put out low noxious gas and things like that. And I encouraged Mr. Shannoni's office and Shelley Davis's office, Public Health, to work more with the city and and maybe help us be more effective, since on the website for public health, it says warming centers. And Ed Valenzuela and Michael Kopseth turned to me and said, we'd like to see the city come to sounds like there's an issue here. Sounds like we need to get together more, that we need to be cooperating more. I said, yes, I think we do. Because I explained that the last person that put the shelter together was you. However, I mean, and you did, you put the last few shelters together that we've had, and I'm appreciative of that. But I think we need to get more help. And I think it would probably follow the weed and Mount asked if some of the other areas would follow along, because they're also on this council. So I will be working, if appropriate, with city manager and council and that sort of thing, to see if maybe we can get together something where we can go to a supervisor's meeting and make a presentation and ask to see if we can, because they're aware that behavioral health works very, very well with us, but it's in these emergency situations. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman McCoy. Yes, that's okay.
Question.
Sure.
Before you jump in. It's been brought to, our, oops, sorry, mic on. It's been brought to, our attention quite a bit, and I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. But we used to do the Citizen of the Year and the Business of the Year and all that stuff. Is that just on the wayside now, or does council know of anything that's going on that activity? And I don't know, or do you know of anything?
Last I heard, Jason, or Mr. Ledbetter can correct me, is last I heard was when they were trying to form the new chamber and everything. They were supposed to host that and bring it back or something, and then all of a sudden it just kind of went to the wayside, I believe. I don't think it's been back to us.
Okay, I just was curious because
Whoever, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think that was, and I'm sure Mr. Kig is aware, but my impression was, the chamber. And then once the chamber dissolved, there was a new chamber that showed up. And then I believe they've also kind of dissolved, is my understanding. So the last one that I can recall, they've skipped a year ultimately. So they did miss 23, because I think they did it at the end of 22. Yeah.
Countywide type thing, wasn't
Yeah.
specific to the
Yreka.
city of Yreka. And
Like you
I
said.
guess that's a sense of pride for our community too, because I know when we did this, when I was on the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, it was a sense of pride, having Citizen of the Year, the Business of the Year for the city of Yreka, not the county, but the city of Yreka. And I just would like to encourage the council as a whole. Maybe we need to bring this back so the rest of the council can talk about this, but to really bring that back. I mean, whether we have some other organization do it, maybe like the Rotary or some other nonprofit or something, maybe look into doing that, because I think it's a necessity to have the sense of pride in our community again, and having that statement showing that we're proud of the Citizen of the Year, we're proud of the Business of the Year, we're proud of the Nonprofit of the Year, and making that statement, because I think we need to bring that back, that pride in Yreka. So I'd like to just bring that back as a discussion, if it's okay with the council.
And you, Councilman Cage, should know better than anybody else, having been president of the chamber and been on it for a while, that it used to get tons and tons of people. And then in 2022, we were informed there were only maybe 37 people but it used to be 120, 130 people. So, I mean, for me, I think it's a great thing. I don't think it should preclude other business that we're doing.
No,
But I
no,
think that
absolutely.
maybe on the side, we could be talking about it and maybe approaching Rotary, the president and
or
some other
anybody, yeah.
places and that sort of thing. And then, because it also for the chamber was a moneymaker.
It was. We
They
we
made,
actually-
I've talked to, yeah, they made good
Yeah,
money.
we did when I was on the chamber. That was actually out of all the events we put on the whole year, that was actually the one was a money maker that we actually did really well with. So, but anyways, if you guys don't mind, we'll have further discussion on that if that's okay.
It's fine with me.
So you would like something on the agenda in the future to,
Just a discussion on bringing back, I'm sorry, bringing back the Citizen of the Year, nonprofit of the year, with that sort of thing. And maybe discussion of maybe nonprofits taking that over, some nonprofit taking that over.
okay.
Means we don't have, like you said, we don't have a chamber yet, but maybe that'll be a future discussion as a chamber.
It was
but
January, wasn't it?
As of right
As they
now,
presented it for
I
the
hate to see
prior
that
year.
tradition lost, is what I guess I'm getting at.
And so ultimately, just so I can clarify, it's not really, the staff can put this on the agenda, but this is really a discussion for the 5 city council members. And then from there, if you want a nonprofit, I guess, and you guys determine that, then I can go work on Rotary or somebody else. So, okay. Yep, we can do that. I am, yeah.
You're like, shut up. Thank you, Jason.
Rotary insurance?
I don't think Robert Smith is any longer.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, Mr.
That's
Mayor.
okay.
Thank you, though.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. Well, we had quite a break before we came back. Seems like it was forever before we came back. So it was kind of a nice break after a busy year and some agenda items and things before us that were very heated and very stressful for, I know, staff, council members and whatnot, but we got through it. But it was, yeah, nice to have a little break, I must say. Our Lola meeting was canceled, as everybody knows, because of the winter storm. So I was supposed to have a meeting beforehand at 5 o'clock because the chair for the Lola and appointing for committees. So that's been rescheduled, I think, in February. I can't remember the date, 7th or something like that. Wasn't it? Anyways, February. And for a lot of the people that were here earlier, but Don Maria as well, talking, I did meet with Councilman Kaeg, sat with our attorney, Jason, really trying to hammer out the solution. And really, we had a great meeting discussion. Yeah, we hit roadblocks again. That's not what we like to do, but we, as Tracy was asking, Tracy, right, saying get together in a room and work it out. We did. We had about a 2-hour meeting, I believe. Just trying to really, move forward with the unhoused and, getting them out of the cold and the shelter. So we did have a roundtable discussion. Like I said, unfortunately, we hit a roadblock. Wasn't what we wanted to hear, but we have to do what's right and even protect the unhoused and for their safety. So I won't go any further on that, but we have met great ideas. So we have been meeting on that, and I know it's a priority. So I don't think I have anything else. So I will wrap it up here and wish everybody a good evening and thank you for coming. And we'll see you next time. Meeting adjourned.